Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler at Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. Leaders, we're going to jump into something today that I believe is I think it's going to grab your interest. Today's topic is called the 13 Errors in Judgment. Now, the reason we titled it this way is because these are things that we have seen over and over leaders have a problem with. Now,
Okay,
Robin and I,
put it.
well, because leaders make mistakes too. Okay, leaders aren't perfect.
Correct.
And I think that's the thing that we sometimes get wrapped up in is that, well, they're the leader. They must be right.
I think our expectations occasionally are bigger than their abilities. Very good way to put it.
And I think that's true.
And I think we've both been on both sides of that.
I think that's true, though. I think that's true even in our BOF, our business, organization, and family.
Right.
This word leadership, I believe, sometimes gets misunderstood, and that's why the expectation of what a leader is, could be, should be, ought to be, gets blown out of proportion from time to time.
I always like when someone comes up to me after a meeting and says, as the leader, you should not have said this, or you should have said that, or blah, blah, blah. It's inappropriate out of line because there's usually a reason for it. And it publicly is not the way to deal with that anyway.
That would be a leadership error in judgment.
Yeah, on both sides.
But let me start off here because I want to take this in a different route. I want it to be as positive as we can.
Oh, okay.
Just because we're the leader and we make an error in judgment, I want to still keep this up on the positive piece. And that's because I believe in our mind, that's what Robin and I's job really is. So the first thing I really want to put here is that an error in judgment could be that you, the leader, really don't understand your role as a leader.
Correct. And in some of the BOFs, the business, organizational, family situations, you may understand your lead role as one thing while other people understand it differently.
Okay, now that's a set of expectations.
Okay, that's not an error in judgment?
I think sometimes the error in judgment is not understanding the other person's expectations of me.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
Because I haven't taken the time as the leader, I haven't taken the time to build a relationship, to build the bridge, to build this understanding, so I understand what they expect of me as the leader.
Right.
And on the other side, I don't know them well enough to know what my expectations of them might be.
Okay.
And so when we don't understand our role, that's I think that's really when we get in trouble.
So that's like another mental picture would be who you are accountable to and who is accountable to you.
Yes.
So it's free flowing.
It's more than just a title. You see, I think we get wrapped up in the title instead of looking at, hey, I need to understand you, and I'm going to ask you the question: what do you expect of me as a leader? And I'm going to say to you, what do I expect of you as a follower?
Right.
And I think that really, because it's an expectation thing.
Yeah. And we need to understand that. Yep.
All right. So when you don't understand your role and where you fit in as a role, because I truly believe we're all leaders.
Okay. So, yeah.
So which piece of the role do you fit into?
And do you get that clarified before or after you say yes?
I would hope.
Before.
I would hope that those expectations would come along with the title or with the expectation.
Yes, the
interview. I'll give you quite honest up front. I'm very disappointed right now in an organization that asked me to be on their board of directors without any expectations. It was just come on, we want you there because you're good.
And you did ask, didn't you?
I did. I asked for a written set of expectations.
3 months.
Because I know that without those, we're just flying blind.
And there's no line for evaluation.
There's no way to keep any evaluation. I have no idea what's expected of me And I expect a lot of them, so I wrote those down and gave them to them, because that's what's got to be. This thing of understand your role.
Yeah, where do I fit?
It's a big piece.
It's like a puzzle. Where do I fit?
It's a lot bigger than what we give people credit for,
or acknowledge consciously and subconsciously,
or we take time to put into place.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Another error in judgment could be, and I've heard leaders say this: I don't need no job description.
I know.
I'm the boss.
That's right.
Quite frankly, leaders, if you've ever heard yourself say that, I want you to go ahead and pinch yourself on the arm and say, boy, was that an error in judgment. I need to make sure that I get a job description. That goes back to this expectations things. You see, without a job description, without the expectations, we just make assumptions of what each and every other person is supposed to or could do.
Right, and without a job description, I don't know where my job ends and yours begins. And the last thing you want to do at any boff is stomp on toes.
So
they'll come back and kick you in the butt.
When we assume things, we all know what that happens, right?
So we need a job description.
We
do. It needs to be pretty clear.
I really started writing these down.
Delineated,
a week or so ago when I was dealing with another situation, and the more I dealt with one after another. There was 3 situations in a week, and all 3 things
somebody's telling you something.
We're dealing with the top leadership. And so as I started, these were all just jotted down in my journal, just so you know. So the first 2 don't understand the role as a leader, and they don't need, I don't need no job description. Those were too high on the list. But the first one, this next one goes right with the first 2. I don't need any written job expectations. I'm the boss. What? I do whatever I want to do. It's my way or the highway. If you don't like it, I'll find someplace else for you.
And without writing the expectations, we're never quite sure what they are. Did we hear it the correct way? Are they changing?
Now that's an important piece.
Yeah.
When they're not written, it's. How many times have you ever raised a dog, puppy, and you've told them one thing, but they heard something else and did something else?
Or your spouse, or whatever.
Well, I was trying to be nice, not say spouse, because I didn't want to get in trouble.
It's a boff. It's not a dog. It's a business, organization, or family. So without written expectations, we don't really know what the role is or the job description.
You're just kind of going through the motions. And when we do that, there's misunderstandings that are going to happen.
That have ripple effects.
And they're going to happen every single time.
So what we need to do is get a role, our role. Okay. Then we need to have the job description, and then we need to have what the expectations are.
Yep.
And everyone needs to be clear, and they need to be written down and available.
And shared with everyone.
Right. They're not a secret.
You see, that was one of the reasons I put these on here. The person that I was dealing with said, "Oh, I have all those things." I said, "Well, do other people know what to expect or what
buried in a notebook?"
And they said, "Absolutely not."
Ooh.
I said,
"There's no accountability."
I said, "You mean you don't share this with anybody, and they don't know where to find it?" He said, "Absolutely not. I am the boss." And
I would not be part of that.
And I thought to myself, you don't even hear you. I don't think he really heard himself.
What I heard you say.
Yeah, I don't think he really heard himself. Because he just kept going on at that same thing. Is that was negotiated between me and the people that hired me. That was negotiated, blah blah blah. And he really felt that in what his words were, the little people didn't need to know that.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, that tells me a lot. I would not be part of that boff.
Yeah.
I'd have to just walk away.
He called me a little person, and I stand 6'2". I'm not real little. I'm pretty beefy. I'm not real little anymore.
That applies other things too.
I'm not real little anymore.
That you don't want to be part of that. Okay.
Yeah. So, 13 errors in judgment. As a leader, I didn't understand my role. As a leader, I didn't have a job description. As a leader, I had no firm written expectations. Now, this next one really is important. You see, as a leader, I didn't need knowledge of where I would fit in the organization. Because I believe everyone is a leader. And I believe everyone has a part to play, a piece to add in an organization, in a BOF. If you don't know where that's at, you cannot make good leadership decisions.
And you can't keep your mouth closed when you should.
Okay? So if you don't know where you fit in, you're always going to be either overstepping or understepping,
right,
or not living up to an expectation someone had, a misunderstanding of a word used. These things are always going to cause that thing called drama.
Drama, right.
And I'm going to tell you what, in BOFs, drama hurts more than it helps.
Right, it doesn't really belong.
It takes time away from actual moving ahead. It takes time away from building relationships. It takes time away from understandings. It takes time away from everything.
It just detracts from all things, and it wears you out.
Well, it wears everybody out.
Oh,
everybody gets
whether
tired
you're the drama
of the
queen
drama
or not. It does wear you out.
Yeah.
It's draining. Okay, number 5.
Number 5. This is a big one. This is a big one, leaders. And you need to understand where you're at in this one. Is that you forget to walk the talk. That you go out in front of the people and you talk about all the good things that are happening in the company, and you believe in this and you believe in that, and you do something else. But then they see you at the corner grocery store with your wife and 2 kids, and you're totally acting differently.
Right.
You're using different words. They see you out at the local pub.
Right.
They see you out playing golf. One of my good friends
or screaming at the ball field.
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
One of my good friends was a recruiter, and he told me that if a client that he wanted to recruit played golf, he would take them golfing because he would listen to the words they used and how they addressed the ball. He said, now if I took them to a baseball game, I would listen to that, or a football game. He said, sometimes I'd find out what they like to do. He says, one time we went on a boat with a fishing guide, because that's what the guy would like to do. And he said, by the time the 4 hours were done, I knew I wasn't going to hire this guy and wouldn't want to be around him. But he was totally different when he was in the office.
Oh, man.
So walk the talk becomes a huge piece. Now, I will tell you, I think you need to be yourself. I don't think you can...
your honest self.
I don't think you can fake it till you make it.
No.
Quite honestly,
that's too much work.
There's an organization that is a networking organization, and their chief advisor always tells everybody, just fake it till you make it. Well, I'm going to tell you what. You fake it, and people are going to know about it because they're going to read you pretty quick. And an error in judgment, that's an error in judgment. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox. Number 6. Number 6, Robin.
Oh, I'm 6. I didn't know that. Okay. Of the 13 errors in judgment, number 6 is an error is you do not delegate things that can be done and should be done by someone else.
Right.
Leaders must delegate. You cannot do everything. You shouldn't be expected to do anything. You need to understand the more people involved, the more people involved.
But what's the unwritten message you're sending when you don't delegate?
That no one is qualified or as good as you are.
Right.
And I've been in organizations or small teams within an organization where the person in charge put me at one point in charge of something and then told me exactly how to do it, when to do it, how to do it, and gave me all the paperwork. That is an honest truth. I thought, man, I've known her for years. She must not know me very well. She doesn't think I can put this little whatever the activity was together. And this is not the way I want to do it because it's been failing.
Okay.
So again, you got to delegate, and you have to give people. My saying is, you delegate and make people do the job. You don't step on them and do it.
Hold them accountable.
Right, you hold them accountable. But
don't make them. You hold them accountable.
Well, they understand make them better than accountability. Those are big words. So it's like, I'm going to give you a job. They don't expect you to do it. I'm not going to step on your toes. I'm going to tell you how to do it. If you have questions, please ask. If you need help, ask. But you're in charge. Take charge. That's how we build leaders. And grow them.
And I'm really serious. If you don't give them the chance, if you don't delegate, if you don't give them the chance, they're always going to be sitting back there wondering why.
Right, and they don't feel part of it.
And they're going to ask some questions, and they're not going to stay around.
No, they're going to be gone.
They're not going to, why would you want to stay if you were never being a part of something? Right. So delegate, okay?
Acknowledge everything else, right.
All right. This next one, number 7 of 13 errors in judgment, really goes as you don't have a clue of what motivates you and what motivates those around you.
That's pretty basic.
This is huge. Leaders, if you don't understand what motivates you, that's one problem or opportunity. But if you don't understand what motivates the people around you, I've worked for people who thought money motivated. Money didn't motivate.
It motivates some people.
So for me,
many.
You could motivate me with a cup of coffee in a few minutes where I could discuss something was going on at the company.
Sometimes the motivation is just a thank you so much for doing a good job of whatever.
You see, and that's an easy piece, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But you also have to understand that different personality types have different motivations.
That's why you have to know your people.
You have to know your people. And sometimes the little tchotchke prize at the end of whatever the task they accomplish is not a motivational thing for most people. We're learning that in one of my organizations right now. They don't care.
I remember when we first got into Boy Scouting, if you went anywhere as a leader, you got a ceramic mug, and we've got a cupboard full of them.
And we were very intentional for 2 years about collecting those mugs. Let me tell you,
right.
You go to an event and you get a mug, but after a while you're like, oh crap, I have a cupboard full of mugs.
What do I do now?
Well, now what do I do?
Right.
And so again, positive reinforcement.
Know what motivates you first.
Right.
Okay. And then build the bridge, build the relationship with the people around you that surround you, so you know what motivates them.
And make sure the basic motivation for most people is a public thank you.
Amen.
That's it. Thank you
I
so
agree.
much.
I agree.
Goes miles.
You can send a note or put a note on my.
Notes are nice.
I'm a happy boy.
Like I said, sometimes the little present at the end is nice, but it's not necessary normally.
Depends on the person.
Depends on it.
And that's where you need to know.
But you need to motivate.
I'm laughing because I'm looking ahead at the next one here.
Okay.
I'm not laughing at anything else.
Oh, this is very different.
But number 8, it says, as a leader, well, I don't need written, well-defined goals.
What I'm hearing here is a lot of things need to be written down and tracked so we can keep track of them. Everybody needs goals. If you don't write them, they're not a goal.
If you don't write them down, it's a dream. And I would never poo on anybody's dream. But you know what?
It's out there.
If you write them down and you share them with people, you never know who's going to help you with that dream.
And then they become attainable.
You know, it also is, it's accountable, and it's also trackable. You know, it's all those different parts and pieces. So defined goals are super duper important. As for your person, for your place, I mean, it's just super
for
duper.
Your boss.
For your boss. I just think it's so important. There's goals back there on that whiteboard, just so you know.
Yeah, but you can't read them.
That's probably a good idea.
But we're still accountable to each other.
We are. Okay. Number 9.
Oh yeah, that's a hard one. Let me show it.
Sure.
You can't be everyone's best friend.
Why not?
And the entire BOF. You cannot be your children's best friend from the F part of that, the family. You cannot be your child's best friend. You have to be the parent. You cannot be everyone's best friend all the time. You can be a good friend, but no one can have that many best friends.
There's a difference between a best friend and a good friend.
A good friend. So you can't be everybody's best friend. No one has that capacity, believe me. But you can be a good friend. And sometimes a good friend is holding people accountable or talking about the tough subjects.
Might even tell you when you're messed up.
Yeah, calmly.
Remember,
a best friend is not going to criticize publicly. They're going to do it in private.
And that's a huge
And they're not going to talk about it.
That's a huge one. And they're not going to gossip about it.
Right.
I love what one of the major players in the leadership group says, that will be no gossiping in his company.
That's right. It's in many companies, that's grounds for firemen.
Yeah, he gives everybody one chance, but after that, you are let go.
There's no gossip.
Yeah, so you can't be everyone's best friend, but you can be everyone's friend.
Make sure when you lead, you don't gossip.
I think there's.
It's hard. It's very hard.
I think for me, that's the thing. You can't be everyone's best friend, but you can be everyone's friend.
You can be a good friend to everyone.
Yeah, I think that's the way I like to put that in there.
And they'll be a good friend to you too.
Yeah. So number 10. 13 of the 13 areas in judgment. As a leader, I can be totally hands off. I don't have to do anything. I'm just the figurehead. Everybody else is going to do everything. I'm not accountable to anybody.
Yeah, it didn't work. We've all experienced leadership like that. I'm the leader, and we'll do what I want to do the way I want to do it, but you're not doing any of the work. So it didn't work.
When we share these things, a lot of times we're working on different worlds right now.
We're sometimes let me rephrase that. We're usually dealing with some of these things we're talking about in one of our BOFs.
And this was this last week. I had these 3 in the one day, in this 1 week, and this person, another gentleman, I hate to beat up guys. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, women would never do that.
But he told me that his job was to come in and sit at his desk, pretty much. I mean,
was he the receptionist?
No, he was the owner.
Oh,
he was the owner.
The owner of what?
He says, I have people do all those other things. I said, well, what do you do besides drink coffee? And he said, well, by the way, he owned a coffee company, just so you know.
Oh, okay. He drinks coffee. It's his job.
So the totally hands-off meant that there was no accountability anywhere within the organization, and he was wondering why. The reason he asked me to come in and talk to me, he was wondering why they were losing money, they were losing profits, they were losing bids, they were losing people within the organization. They were just everything was going away out of his company.
Okay, I'm going to go back here.
That he had built.
This is number 10 out of 13. So I'm assuming he didn't understand his role as leader. He did not have a job description. He didn't have firm written expectations for himself or anyone else. He didn't really know where he and everyone fit into the organization. He didn't walk his talk, whatever that was, because we don't know, because nothing was written down. He delegated everything, including things he should have been doing himself, which is a problem. He had no clue what motivates people around him, because they obviously were not motivated. They didn't have written, well-defined goals, so they didn't know they weren't reaching them.
He was everybody's best friend.
Probably only when they were face-to-face, so I'm just going to go down that little
he
side way. Okay. He was hands-off and everything, so everybody else was charged for everything else.
Which brings you to number 11, which is where the problem was.
Oh my goodness. Nothing.
This is where the problem was.
All right.
He provided nothing but negative feedback. And he did it in a way that was always in front of a group of people. Even when I was in his office sitting there, a person came in, described a situation, and immediately he lit into this negative feedback. Then when we went out on the floor where they were roasting the beans, which
yummy.
Wonderful smell, by the way, he had nothing but a negative comment to each person on the floor. You're not fast enough. You're not good enough. You didn't sweep up. There was no positive reinforcement anywhere.
Okay, so this is an older gentleman.
He is. He's been
involved, I'm thinking, in a few different businesses over time. And was he in charge of those, or did he work for someone?
He ran them.
Okay,
somehow.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here as a mommy and say that's the environment he grew up in.
For me, when we went back to his office, and I said, can I close the door? I said, you're really coming off as a bully and not a boss. Fair. And I said, I really feel bad by giving this negative feedback. I said, but
I'm going to be your good friend.
You've asked me to come in and help you out, build your company. I said, the first thing we have to do is we have to take and change that, and you have to walk the talk. You can't just go out and help the guy that's roasting the beans. If he's not doing it the way that you think it needs to be done, give him some instruction. Don't just yell at him. You just yell at him, let's burn some beans. That's I don't get it. So I'm hoping when I go back to do a follow-up, I see some changes.
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, this leadership thing, this 13 errors in judgment, these have become so common that's why I wrote them down.
Okay, so when he's providing nothing but negative feedback, he is not giving anybody any positive.
No positive.
And he's doing it publicly, which we already talked about. You do negatives very privately, quickly, privately.
Yep.
The 30-minute, 30-second.
We praise in public.
And we do the okay. And in that case, it sounds like all you really need to do is show someone physically how to do it, and you would have eliminated all the words and the negativity.
I think if he would have just stepped over and said, look, in order to take and roast, it's this many minutes. It needs to be turned this.
Set the timer.
Because it's this big machine that spins around and roasts them.
So
and it didn't look all that complicated to me, but I don't understand because the fire has to be up to a certain height and all that stuff.
It's like baking cakes.
I don't know. It was
it's got to be the right temperature, the right
more
time, the right everything.
I didn't understand it all, and so I was asking them.
I bake cakes. I understand.
I was asking a bunch of questions.
Okay.
And the young person that was running it was excited to tell me the answers.
Oh, so they did.
You see,
okay.
So I think with
wow.
Negative feedback, ladies and gentlemen, when it's all negative and it's all public,
it's very, very bad on many levels because everyone hears it and they know, and you've already blown your trust. You spread your leadership judgment. Yeah. You just killed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, number 12. Never making time for your team. This is huge.
Yes, and do we make that be the regular time, or is that necessary time, or both?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the best things I ever learned was from a gentleman when he was grooming me to be the director of an organization, and he would tell me all the time, you need to make sure you make time for each of the instructors out there, and also make time for them as a group.
Right.
And
the group has to develop also.
Once a year, we would go away on a group.
Oh, I remember those. Those were great crafting weekends for Robin.
Oh, they were great, wonderful things for us. And then in between, he always made time to take and be with you. And it was such a great learning tool that I kept it and put it in place when I became the director. But the error in judgment is when you get so wrapped up into your organization, into your BOF, that you don't make time for other people inside it. Right. What they see and what they understand is that they don't matter.
As individuals,
it's a silent signal. But when they get it that they don't matter, that's how they respond.
Yeah, they don't care then. I mean,
it's that whole thing is, well, why should I do a good job if they don't care? Why should I show up on time if they don't care? Mm-hmm. It's all these different parts and pieces that go back to this not having expectations in the job description and all these other pieces that go in here.
And I can think back on life and know there are times when I did work a few times for people or been involved in organizations where that came across that they don't care about you. You might care about doing a good job,
right? Showing
up on time and doing your work, but they really don't care about you. It does come across,
right?
Whether you stop and think about it, evaluate it that way, or it just sort of percolates.
All right. Number 13, errors in judgment.
Oh yeah,
this one's important. Rushing through the recruitment and hiring process.
Can't rush that.
This is one you needed to really take some time with. Now, I know there's a bunch of HR rules, so make sure that you're sticking to the HR rules. But you can, with the rules, you can take and ask some questions of the individual. Now, here's what I'm going to really encourage you to do. Make sure you write down those questions. Make sure that you write down the answers. And at the end of the conversation, both of you sign and date that paper.
Right. Correct. Because if you are actually hiring a person and there's an interview process, and there should be a process and it should be the same for everyone, that includes business, your whole BOF. You do with your prospective children-in-law or whatever. We didn't think about that 20 years ago, but now that might not be a bad idea. Go through that process so that everyone understands everyone else.
Right.
They understand everything that we talked about, the roles, expectations, the responsibilities, again, the entire BOF spectrum, and get everything on the line and be honest and make sure they know that they need to answer honestly at the beginning and not just give me the right answer for the question.
It's more cost effective to take a longer time to recruitment and hiring than it is to take and go through the letting go and restarting over.
Again, when Dick talked about the hiring guy who took people to a football game or fishing or whatever, that's a social situation, and it tells a lot about people. I know we're in a BOF situation right now where if the person we hired had been honest at the dinner, he wouldn't have taken the job.
Yeah. Well, I see we're running down there like usual. On behalf of myself, Dick Powell, and Robin Powell, and the whole Leadership Corner team, we want to say thank you for being a part of today's program. Our hope is that you've received a nugget of wisdom and guidance that will help you build your leadership ability. And if you have any questions or comments on today's program, send me an email, dick@leadershipwrangler.com, dick@leadershipwrangler.com. So go to the website and make your very own time with us, www.leadershipwrangler.com. Or if it's burning desire and you got to have it right now, give us a phone call, 727-422-1833. And until next time, DW the Wrangler saying, ride hard, ride fast. See, I told we'd get 30 out of it.
That was a good one.
Yeah. I write good stuff. All right, now it's beer and wine time, or wine.
Okay, one
time.
beer, cheese, crackers. What do you want? Apples. Sorry.
You're asking me to think while I'm typing. Okay, goes down. I'll pull those off later.